Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Cosmo Muse Tarot and this week's reading, which is inspired by, well, number one, this is a timeless reading, but what it's inspired by is as I'm doing this reading, we're a couple days away from the Cancer new moon, as well as Jupiter in Cancer having what's called Cazimi, where it shares the same degree as the sun. And that Cazimi, when a planet has a Cazimi with the sun, a planet, especially an outer planet, one that's further away from the sun than Earth is, there's kind of like a dual thing in my mind that happens with that astrologically. There is a seeding when that Jupiter-Sun alignment happens. It's like that planet disappears into the sun. So something's becoming illuminated. There's like a new spiritual awakening happening and brightness around something. But it's more spiritual. It's more around consciousness. It's more internal, and it's a little bit archetypal. So there's like an archetypal energy that awakens in us, but there's an opposite journey happening at the same time, or an opposite thing happening at the same time. I am someone who deeply integrates Earth into astrology, whereas a lot of astrologers don't necessarily read the Earth as like a planet that has an interpretation necessarily. That is something that I deeply do and have found a lot of resonance. And anyway, I'm not going to pitch my beliefs, but just what this is inspired by. So when Jupiter and the sun are in opposition, Jupiter or any like outer planet is in opposition to the sun, that means that Earth and that planet are in conjunction, which starts a more embodied journey, sort of like a hero's journey. So if you were to think of something we all know, a story that everyone has some element of familiarity with, unless you've been living under a rock, is Star Wars. And it's a classic hero's journey. You know, Luke Skywalker is individuating himself, kind of finding out who he is in the world. And there's a moment in that first Star Wars that was made where he's still a farm boy and he's looking off into the distance at the two moons. And that to me is that almost like that sun and another planet conjunction, where the planet is very visible in the sky during a sun conjunction. That is during an Earth conjunction, but bear with me. It is like this longing, even though it's not externalized and it's not voiced, you get the sense that he has this longing, like that Jedi thing in him is stirring. This archetype in him is like longing to be let free. And to me, that's like the sun conjunction with a planet. That's the Cazimi. There's something internal happening, that wish for an archetype to level up or a new archetype to awaken, that kind of thing. And then when the Earth has that conjunction with a planet, that's when like the hero's journey starts. That new archetype has kind of been seeded and it's starting to stir in us. And when it's ready to be externalized, that's when the Earth conjunction happens, and all of a sudden we're kicked into a journey that's externalized, it's embodied, we're holding it. So I kind of want to like look at Jupiter and this influence of Cancer. From when I'm doing this reading, Jupiter is going to be in Cancer for the next year, but it's really important because we're having a solar conjunction with it right now, and we're having a Cancer new moon, which is a time of seeding new intentions as well. So it's just like a really potent time to just explore these themes. Jupiter, which is about how we want to expand ourselves, how we want to broaden our horizons, push our boundaries, literally enter new worlds, like Luke Skywalker does in Star Wars. He literally goes and explores different worlds, but like metaphorically for us, like what new worlds do we want to push ourselves into? How do we want to expand our perspectives, our horizons, our possibilities? And then infusing that Cancer energy around it, how does that tie into a little bit more soulfulness, a little bit more depth, a little bit more connection to intuition and imagination and femininity and depth? And I got this new deck today called the Wild and Sacred Feminine decks, which is part of also what inspired this reading. Is it really dives into these feminine archetypes, and I wanted to play with it. But then we also have this Jupiter in Cancer thing, which is very feminine, but Jupiter is very, Cancer is very feminine. This deck is very feminine, and then we have Jupiter, which is about, the exploration, the journey, the broadening, our horizons. So exploring how our feminine wants to do that. How does our feminine want to expand? How does that side of us that nurtures and cares and creates community and creates depth in life and nourishment in life and a feeling of being home both in ourselves and in the world, like how are we wanting to expand that? How are we wanting to broaden what that means for us and explore totally new ways of being feminine, expanding our femininity, expanding the lens of intuition? So we've got 3 piles to choose from. If you are feeling bold and like this is really calling to you, feel free to pick more than one pile. Maybe your feminine is really ready to expand. If you're like, I hear this, that's a cool topic, like I want to explore that a little, maybe just do one pile, whatever is calling to you. But we've got pile 1, Dear and Gentleness, pile 2, Threshold and Intention, pile 3, Hummingbird and Joy. So pause the reading here if you need some time to kind of feel into these 3 piles about expanding the feminine, seeding new kind of archetypal awakenings in the feminine, and exploring where you are in an embodied journey with the feminine. So when you are ready, timestamps will be in the descriptions, and I will see you in your piles. Hello, pile 1. Welcome to your reading. Definitely go watch the intro if you haven't. It will help kind of illuminate what this reading is tapping into, and it will make a little more sense to you. But in brief, very generally, we are exploring how your feminine archetype is, like what kind of journey is it on right now? What is it doing in its journey? What are you really embodying right now with the feminine, and what new kind of archetypal energy is ready to awaken and expand in you in the feminine? So the first card we are looking for, and the one that you use to choose your pile, is going to tell us a little bit of, give us a little insight into what's already going on for you in the feminine. Where are you in that feminine journey? What's going on for you? What are you already embodying and sort of experiencing? And we'll get just some insight around that, things you might need to know to, just give you more to work with around what's going on right now in your life in terms of like honoring your feminine side and qualities. So Dear and Gentleness. Only kindness raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, it is I you have been looking for, and then goes with you everywhere like a shadow or a friend. If you have encountered Dear in your deck today, you are being courted by benevolence. Dear is the messenger of wild divine. Sudden movements and loud voices cause her to flee. If you offer heartfelt song and genuine praise, however, she will turn towards you. Gaze into her liquid brown eyes to receive the blessing of her loving kindness. Let's see, anything else we want to, I'm not going to read the whole book with this. It's connected to the heart chakra, invites you to lead a heart-centered life, even in challenging situations. Again, kindness, the conduct of love. Whereas force controls by maintaining a false power over others through fear, Deer mirrors the true power of love within an open heart. Kind of kindness begets kindness. So that's something that like you're embodying right now. I don't know if that resonates for you guys. Sometimes we have to kind of be made aware of like our patterns and things that are emanating from us. So maybe that resonates and you're like, I'm feeling that. And maybe this is just me mirroring that to you, telling you like, you know, notice this about yourself right now. It's something you're really embodying, something that's part of like what's really been developing you in your feminine side is this connection to gentleness and this sort of notion of having a little bit more of a heart-centered control of life, like knowing that, I don't know, it's like you're coming into this wisdom that gripping onto things or trying to over control things or leading through some fear has like not been something that's created good outcomes in your life, and you've seen it and you've seen through it and you've sort of like really woven into the fabric of your being this way of being that is more gentle, that is more allowing, that is a little bit more kind in its approach, both to yourself and to others. And it just starting to help like a little bit more of a heart energy orient around you, both in how, you know, what's coming toward you and what you're putting out. You may be recognizing that more heartfelt things are orbiting you because of this energy that you've been anchoring in and working on. The way I'm reading this too is kind of like where your Earth journey with Cancer and Jupiter are, and even though this is something integrating, it's usually that integration happens sometimes at our lowest point. And so this may be something that's starting to weave in because you're shedding some, you know, going through some ego deaths. But minimally, it's like this is starting to unfold in you. And it may be because of seeing, you know, just like very recently or in the coming week, starting to see some patterns around ego or control or fear that you've already kind of been, you know, having this tug of war with and seeing through, but it's like you're really getting it. There's something like in the coming week or couple weeks, you're really getting it. You're really being like, I see what I've been playing with this gentleness. It's something that's kind of come in and out, and I've sort of been trying to weave it in, but like I get it. I get what it means now, and I get like that it needs to replace certain ways that weren't creating good outcomes. So let's get a little bit of tarot insight around how this will further unfold for you as the more you anchor this in, what's going to come of that. We have Wheel of Fortune, like things will really shift for you. New, you know, this perspective shift around understanding gentleness, using gentleness, feeling that gentleness integrate within you, is really going to shift some energies in a positive way and really change outcomes in your life. More fertile outcomes, more nourishing outcomes in your life. Knight of Wands, this is coming in very quickly. So my instinct here is that you're already getting this. It's already kind of anchoring in for you. And so expect some rapid movements to take place, rapid shift of circumstances and rapid shift of outcomes to start being felt. Like it's one of those like epiphanies that come in that really do kind of pivot your life. So one of those ahas that are poignant, that do matter, that do make a difference. And with the wands here with the Knight, new inspiration coming in. And I always look at, I know this says deer, but this is kind of like a buck that has the antlers, and that to me is like antenna and download. So I do think you're getting a lot of, and she's holding on to horns of like a goat or something here. So I know it's like horns and antlers are a little different, but to me there's still both these like antenna to getting downloads and higher guidance. And so this is kind of like hold on for dear life, because the downloads that are coming are going to be very exciting and inspiring, and they are because of this more gentle approach that you're really anchoring in. And then Seven of Swords. I think that this new approach, you are less easily swayed by what other people are doing, comparisons, needing to live by rules and expectations that really don't belong for you. It's like you're seeing through that very quickly and exiting stage left and starting to realize like you need to just be you. And this thing of detail, like I think, oh, that's interesting, because in this Wheel of Fortune, they're kind of stuck on this web here. And this thought came into my mind with the Seven of Swords of like something's like you're detangling from old psychic bonds, old unsaid agreements. You're just releasing yourself from them and just exiting stage left, and somehow like very easily detangling from some past scenarios and past outcomes and past others who have made it hard for you to live in your gentleness, that kind of thing. Okay, we are going to get another wild and sacred feminine card to show what new. So this deer is something that's been integrating and it's about to really anchor in for you. But what new feminine archetype is just starting to flicker inside of you? Just as you're anchoring in one thing, you're now ready to kind of have some sort of new light spark inside of you, of a new kind of feminine archetype that wants to start to be seen and grown and become, have more of your consciousness aware of it and work with it, but for several months it will still be kind of this flicker inside, something that's just kind of bubbling, so let's take a look at what's coming. What new feminine archetype are you going to start tapping into? Star and Wonder. Okay, let's see what the book says. It's probably an elemental, 97. Okay, so humans have always been stargazers. Through the night sky, we see into the vast universe and are pulled in awe toward mystery. In antiquity, many cultures were obsessed with the other world that was revealed when the sun sank below the horizon. The gods appeared as heavenly bodies, the constellations told stories, and the stars conveyed instructions. Today, Star is sending you a message. Go forth into the night to rekindle your sense of wonder. Let's see what else. If you have drawn Star, you may have fallen under the tyranny of the rational mind. Realign yourself with astonishing possibility rather than skeptical limitation. Tonight stand at the window, awaiting first starlight, conjure your heart's desire, and broadcast a wish out into the universe. Let wonder and wisdom meet, each expanding ad infinitum, the other's domain. Interesting. Okay, so something is starting to flicker, something new is starting to awaken in you that my sense is like you have in the past had connection to, but we all go through these, you know, show me the person that can always withstand living in a rational, very masculine centered, or who can withstand. We live in a very masculine world. And so show me the individual that doesn't succumb to overdoing that at times. And for a lot of us, we go through phases where that gets heavy, where we've gotten a little bit spiritually arid with that and kind of lost touch with a little bit of the mystery and the wonder and the dark, cool, damp, rich, feminine night sky. So there's something about that is starting to flicker within, this like recognition that maybe something's gotten a little too rational and logical and intellectual, and there's something flickering in you that's like, I want to lean back into mystery. I need to lean back into myth and imagination and depth and, you know, just that mystery, the things that are hard to put words to, the feelings and the sensations and the emotion of life, and just that leaning into the unknowable, leaning into the things you can only name through poetry and myth and archetypal imagery. There's something flickering in you that's like, I want to reconnect with that. So that does give a little bit more insight into this dear and gentleness too, because I did have that feeling that like there was maybe some control or ego or fear you've been battling to infuse more of that feminine gentleness into things. And so that also shows that, you know, those things can be very masculine, ego and control and fear. So even though you have had this feminine archetype that's been battling that, something in you and finding that gentleness is that counterbalance to it, that stabilizes that. And again, like I said, with the star card, you know, ego, control, fear is also something we all go through cycles with. That's not saying anything about you as a person. We all go through cycles where that comes on too much and gets, you know, brittle in us, and we have to lean into the feminine. So you've been doing that with that gentleness. You've been counterbalancing some of that like more structured, controlled masculine with some gentleness and tenderness and kindness, right? But I think you're ready to take it once that gentleness anchors in and you start getting good outcomes from it, results, manifestation, like things actually happening for the better by anchoring more into the feminine. It's like that flicker just turns on 5 notches more of like, okay, beyond just being tender and gentle, I really want to lean into the mystery, the unknowable, the dark undercurrents of life that you really can only have association with like very much so opening yourself to the unknown and a certain smallness. Like I feel like you're ready to feel small again. Feel small against the backdrop of a whole universe that's unknowable. And so, yeah, it's like something that's seeding right now. You probably won't see that embodied in you for another many months, but it's like, yeah, it's seeding. Notice it seeding in you. Okay, let's get some insight. What can you do to help that seed along, to really take care of that seed and anchor it in and help you get to the point of embodying it? What can you become more and more conscious of to help you with this? Queen of Cups, really centering in your emotions, letting emotions move through you, sharing your emotions, being comfortable with emotion, and honoring emotions, like befriending your emotions, the good, the bad, and the ugly, befriending them, caring for them. That's something you can do to really help this seed take root. 8 of Swords. Notice where you feel confined. That makes so much sense coming under the star. Notice what stories, like what self-narratives of yourself are starting to feel like they are caging you in. What are the stories you tell yourself about you? What are the stories you tell yourself about life? And what are the beliefs you hold that are really holding you back, that you're starting to feel cagey about? Start to notice those and start to kind of shake on those cages a little bit. Okay. One more card around this. And we've got 4 of Cups. It's okay to be in the cave a little bit, to want to feel a little bit, I don't know if solitary is the word, but just like a little bit detached from life. Yeah, I mean, because you look at the star and you do have to be in a very surrendered, detached place. And this 4 of Cups, to me, is saying it's okay to start detaching a little, to start looking at the bigger picture in order to see what feels stable and what doesn't to you, in order to start rattling those cages that you keep, yourself limited in, but that you tell yourself are your security blanket, that are actually keeping you safe, but they're not. They're actually just keeping you small. Not in the small in the sense of like wanting to be small against the backdrop of the universe, but small in your own narrative of life. The star is a grand narrative making you small. The cage is a small narrative making you feel too big in the cage. So if you see the difference there, it's like start to take steps back so you can see where you're growing out of a cage, where you're too big for the smallness of the story that's playing out, and where you need to be smaller against the backdrop of a vast possibility of stories, a vast possibility of narrative self, of who you tell yourself you are, who you say your leading character is, and the role it's playing in a broader story playing out. Like, shake it up a little bit, so step back. It's okay to be a little bit removed, to detach, so you can see what is feeling stable and what isn't, and see through the illusions of what you're telling yourself is safe but is really limiting, and what you're telling yourself is not safe but is actually something that might stabilize you. And it's just like detaching a little bit, taking the view, taking in the view of things, to see from a more removed or bird's eye place, like what's actually going on here. Okay, to end this, I just wanted to get an animal and an archetype card just for some thoughts right now about what is going on and how to just generally embrace the beauty of the feminine side, and being able to tap into, being able to tap into more nourishment, more mystery, more imagination in life, in terms of like what is playing out in life for you right now. So we have an archetype, the Queen. Look at yourself with a little bit more pride, not in a ego way, but in a way of like, I deserve more. I deserve the best. I deserve all the beautiful things that might come my way. I deserve a seat at the table. I deserve to get that job. I deserve, what is it that you are questioning that you deserve right now? And how can you just say, like, yeah, I do deserve it? Let's take this top one and then rhinoceros and get out of your own way. Tell yourself that thing that you're questioning or fearful of or don't know if you deserve. Create some mantra that helps you to anchor in a belief that you deserve it, and then get out of your own damn way. Let it happen. Let it come to you. The feminine is receptivity. Let it come to you. Say it. Make yourself believe that you deserve things and get out of the way. So that is where I'm going to leave you guys. I hope this reading was insightful. It opened you up to seeing some things going on and tapping into some of the feminine noticeable and unnoticeable currents sort of swirling around at the moment, and helping you to broaden and expand into these feminine things that want to bring some really beautiful, expansive things your way. Okay, if this did resonate, I always appreciate the things like, share, subscribe. Comments are always helpful. And thank you for being here. I appreciate you tuning in and love having you here. And I hope to see you in future readings. Hello, Pile 2. Welcome to this reading where we're going to be looking at what feminine energy is starting to really anchor in and expand in your life through lived experience, and then looking at a new feminine kind of archetypal quality that's starting to flicker. It's more internal. It will be internal for several months, but it's like, new quality of feminine that wants to seed and expand in your life and grow in your life. So let's look at the card you chose represents what's already seated and embodied, but is coming into like a critical point of really integrating it, really living it and seeing it and honoring this feminine aspect of you that is ready to, just completely be a part of your life, an asset, and something that gives your life a little more nourishment and beauty and pleasure. And we have threshold and intention for you guys. So let's look in the book. This is a totally new deck to me. So these are the first cards I'm in these readings that I'm even seeing. So of course I have to figure out how the book works too. Threshold 99. Okay. I'm just going to read a little bit. With intention. I cannot tell anymore when a door opens or closes. I can only hear the frame saying walk through. And that's from Ada Limon, who is a poet. I'm just going to skip around, read a few little things from the book. When you happen upon threshold, know that you have arrived at the holy space in between one state of being and another. Across cultures, this liminal space is what separates the sacred from the profane, the known from the unknown. In the realm of the feminine, the vagina has been viewed as one such gateway between heaven and earth. Today, threshold greets your medial nature, portending that the time has come for you to move between worlds. Coming upon this unexpected frontier may evoke hesitation. Fret not, as the popular to the unknown. Threshold gives you her medicine in these defining moments when you temporarily inhabit the space between space. You may find liberation in uncertainty, growth in the untethering. Stripped of plans and distractions, you can land in the unshakable immediacy of who you are and where you belong. But first you must do your inner work, sometimes twisting and writhing to shed old ill-fitting identities. The word thresh refers to removing dry husks from fertile seeds that, like you, contain dormant potential. To cross a threshold, you must delve into the mystery of who you are at the core of your being. Lift the veil that prevents you from seeing this truth and craft a soul-mirroring intention to propel you into the unknown. Anyone poised on the threshold must prepare to greet the guardians of the gate who personify fear and defend the status quo. Armed with an intention, expressing your deepest longing, you must come face to face with any of these demons conspiring to keep you small. Offer the guardians gratitude for protecting you thus far, then ask them to step aside and bless your journey onwards. Step across the boundary between past and future to enter the spacious landscape of evolvement. Here, any opening may be a threshold, any leaving and entering a doorway to what's beyond. Okay, so I did just read the whole of that. I didn't intend to, but it felt kind of like a story. So I was also curious because threshold, I was wondering how this was being integrated into a feminine lens, because thresholds don't necessarily have to, I mean, the energy of the threshold, that uncertainty and the unknown, is kind of feminine territory, but it doesn't always have to be associated to femininity. So I was just kind of curious how this was sort of, connecting with that. And it did feel like, I love that metaphor of like the vagina being a portal or a threshold too, of like we do birth things into the world. And that's what's coming to mind for me is like, is there something for you that you've been incubating? And you really understand, like you're coming into like really embodying and understanding the purpose of incubation stages, of letting things marinate, letting things congeal, letting things have space to be a little bit wild and chaotic and unknown, to see what naturally starts to organize without you having to control. That's what's coming up for me, of like this like really expanding into a feminine quality of not needing. It's funny because pile one had it's a little different, but an element of this come up too, of like, what is it that you are understanding and really coming into and starting to embody, of like not needing to control things, like trusting that things do self-organize as long as you hold an intention and a certain vibration and certain vision. If you can back off a little, things will more naturally organize in a better way than you could control an organization of stuff. And so it's like, what are you coming into around that you're starting to like having these ahas? Like I've been playing with that, like things intuitively have kind of been doing that, but like I'm becoming much more conscious and integrated in like the purposely doing that, purposely allowing incubation stages and being able to recognize when things are in incubation and not rushing them out. There's something here. And the importance of like having an intention but staying open-minded, having a hope but recognizing that if you hold too tight to a hope, something better might be missed, right? It's like, what are you really getting soulfully deeply about this now? And it may be over the next couple weeks that like you're kind of grasping and then like going back to old ways and then grasping, but like, something in the next day to couple of weeks is really gonna like just integrate deeply. Like you've already been conscious of it, you've already been playing with it, but it's like seeing results with it, right? You're gonna start to see results with it, hence like really have confidence in it and anchor it in and be like, I get what it means to trust those incubation times and what those feel like and what it feels like to recognize it and not rush it and allow that uncertainty to be there and the power of that. Okay, so let's get a few tarot cards to see what's going on with this for you in a little bit more detail. Just help bring, some better recognition and awareness of what's going on. Yeah, there's probably something that you have been incubating that is literally in this incubation stage that you're just like, why can't I not tangibly grab it? Why is this in such liminal space all the time? So like in the tarot, the moon card has deeper associations with like Pisces, Neptune energy versus in astrology, the moon is more with Cancer. So they're just very different energies. And it's interesting that these systems use the moon very different, with very different energies. So in tarot, it is about the nebulous. It's about that wiring in of consciousness, but knowing that that's not something you control or force. You have to, that's an incubation thing. It's a little bit mystical. It's a little bit unknowable. And so there's something I think that's actively doing, you're like really, intimately connected with this, embodying the understanding of threshold and intention, because something is literally in that phase in your life. And you're just like, I think you're just trying to learn how to trust that. You're trying to even like hype yourself up of like, that I do recognize it and that is what it is, and not second guess that, and not feel like, okay, well, that I've been waiting a year. Is an incubation of a project take a year, or incubation of like being able to move take a year? Like sometimes it does. And so that's what I feel like it's been like 6 months or something, of something just like, I can't grasp it. I'm trusting that it's this incubation thing, that things are happening, even though I can't like see it and feel it. Like it's a different sense that's there. And it's like, you're gonna really trust that soon and be glad that you did. Let's see what else is going on here. Two of Cups, yeah. So whatever does come out of this incubation stage, because you're really understanding the need to back off, hold an intention, but back off and let things naturally organize, organically, ethereally organize what does end up birthing from this, which I believe is happening sometime in the next day to 2 weeks. Will be so aligned from a soul place. It will be so aligned to soul calling. Because you allowed it the space and the time and the trust, instead of forcing things to happen, instead of controlling how things happen, which would have corrupted what would have birthed to be not as soul aligned. But because you are embodying this trust of the threshold, the trust of the incubation, what does end up birthing and manifesting and having that breakthrough out into, the real world is so deeply meant and aligned with you. So just hang in there. Let's see what else wants to come through. And then we've got Ace of Wands, yeah, which is that birth point. So I feel like this is more of a confirmation for you, like trust it. I want to say this is something that's been like 6 months, like trust, like that ignition moment is so close. 1 day to 2 weeks, just hang in there. Okay, so let's see what's coming next. As you really integrate this and start to like see how this threshold quality of the feminine that you're trusting and having more confidence with is integrating in you? What new thing are you ready to start seeding about the feminine? What new expansion of feminine energy is just starting to flicker in you, just starting to become conscious because you're ready to take on more archetypal energy, more expansion in the feminine? And we have rainbow and forgiveness. And so let's check this out in the book. 87. A card of inclusivity and fluidity. Rainbow signals that it is time to discover a larger identity for yourself. Step into a generous swath of perspective, because rainbows depend on the angle that the light meets water in the sky. No two people see the exact same rainbow. Everyone has their eyes set on a slightly different horizon. Rainbow points to the overarching truth that diversity of perspective is the keystone of forgiveness. In physics, all colors on the spectrum are understood to be one thing seen in different ranges of motion. Each color implies the existence of the other. Although your vantage point may be different or may be distinct, rainbow invokes an underlying unity between us all. An ancient promise. An ancient symbol of promise, rainbow offers herself as a vision of integration. In her radiant sweep, catch a shimmering glimpse of your colorful essence. Forgiveness gives you back to yourself, restoring something profound from which you may have become separated. An atonement, at one-ment with your experience of the world. Out of the blue, rainbow soars, a benevolent arc of beauty. So something that, let's see. Restoring something you got separated from, and some sense of forgiveness coming in. Like I get the sense that like I see a thread, a rainbow thread here, whatever is birthing in this threshold energy that's playing out. As soon as you see that, you're gonna, you know, like it said in the book, the angle you're at changes what you perceive. The perspective you're holding changes the angle you see. And I feel like you're getting back an angle of perspective that you got separated from for some reason. And it just expands you, and it just restores some setting that got, you know, we all have this happen. We all have settings that get jostled, and, you know, we're like computers. Things get jostled, knobs get turned, life happens, right? But something gets unleashed. Some arc of light gets unleashed when this, threshold thing births, and you recover and restore something that got separated, and it just like really expands you. You're able to find a sense of forgiveness around something that was hard to even see or face or accept, but it's just like you may have this opinion or this notion, maybe not of an opinion, but like a notion that this, what am I trying to say here? That like, maybe in some mode of your life, like things worked, things just happened. You had that golden touch, and then like a different chapter of life came in that was just more challenging, and that chapter just kept going on and on and on. And so then you're like, well, maybe that was just that particular time in life was just, a little more blessed, and this is just what life is now. And it's not that, it's not that you lost that or that capacity to have life have that golden touch anymore. It's just that like dials got a little janky, you know, you were moved in life circumstantially, so you were seen from different angles that maybe weren't as lovely as previous angles. But something is shifting again with this threshold where you're moved to a new position again. And now it's just different. You know, it's not like you're getting the exact same thing back, but you're like, oh, it didn't disappear, it's here, and I can see it, but I'm also at this different perspective, and like that feels golden now. Like the way light is arcing now is, I see where I just wasn't seeing this color in me. I can see it again, but I'm still seeing it differently. It's now not disappeared, but it's still different from what I saw before, how I saw myself before, or this way of life unfolding before. Like, it's still different, but it's back. It's back, but I still see it differently and more expansively. And it's just this very expansive rainbow energy of like, I really could, you know, put my wings out and soar now. Like I see this arc of growth that's very colorful, that's very beautiful, that it's just like you're getting something about greater arcs of time, more expansive arcs of time, that's helping you to see a broader range of your color spectrum and color spectrum in the world. And it's just, I don't know, it's just like closing unnecessary notions that were illusions, and really opening expansions and creating all sorts of possibility. I hope that's made sense. But so like right now it's like this flicker, and I feel like the more whatever is birthing from this threshold comes out, and the more that starts to anchor and take off into the life, the more you see that rainbow. And by 6 months down the road, it's like you're going to be ready to embody that rainbow archetype energy and really soar and really like do something with it, like go out into the world with it, be ignited to act from that place. But let's see what you can know to help kind of incubate that flicker of the rainbow energy. How can you keep it safe, keep that fire stoked from within, to keep that rainbow seedling energy. Oh, this did come out in reverse, the devil. Let go of attachments. That's something you're already learning with that threshold. Like, let go of needing to control outcomes, but I feel like it's not outcomes here. It's with the rainbow, like let go of needing to control what you think you are or aren't. It's not necessarily circumstances or a project or, you know, something you're trying to birth. This is more of perception and perspective. Like, let go of your attachments to what you think is possible for you and what stories are playing out and what you think you're perceiving. Like, it's not quite accurate. So let go of your attachments to what you're perceiving about yourself and life and what you think you've been separated from or lost. So number one, let go of some attachments around different stories you have. 9 of Wands, that is absolutely a rainbow arc card. That is being able to be at a certain place in a journey where it's nearly ended, where you do have the vantage point of being able to look back and notice a journey you've been. You know, sometimes we're in journeys, we're in stories, and we don't see it until we get a certain way through, until we've had a certain amount of experiences that kind of link together, that we can look back and be like, oh, I see what was going on there. I see why I had to go through that. I see the story of this. The 9 of Wands is that card. It represents that, being able to look back at all of the difficult ups and downs and challenges and learning curves and growing pains and wins and losses that you've been through, to see a story, to see the arc of growth of what it's been about. And so just trust that that's coming, that you're going to see this arc of something and be like, oh, okay, I get it. I get why I felt separated, or why I was separated from certain way of being or way of life, or that golden touch. I get it. I had to go through these things, this time period, in a different way to develop different kinds of instincts and wisdoms and, that kind of stuff. And then last one, judgment. Yeah, that's coming to an end. Whatever story has been playing out, it's like a chapter of life is coming to an end that has made you, I don't want to say it's necessarily been good or bad, hard or difficult. I feel like every journey has its ups and downs, its beautiful things and its difficult things, but it has been a chapter that has made you feel like some golden touch you had in the past wasn't there. Maybe you had other golden touches in this, but one that you've missed, one that you're like, how did I lose that? But whatever that story is that's been playing out that made you not, like, a little blind to perceiving something and assuming it was separated from you, was just an illusion. You just needed to be at an angle where you couldn't see that in order to develop different parts of you. But you're getting that, you're seeing it, that chapter's about to end, and I see like a reunion with something that you did think was kind of lost, and that feeling expansive and beautiful and exciting. Okay, last thing we're going to do is just getting an archetype card and an animal power card to speak to something you need to know right now, some advice you need to know right now in terms of what's going on with your feminine energy, how you can really lean into the expansion of it and the beautiful things it wants to bring that we've seen here. Okay, so archetype. Let's take the top card here. The storm. Yeah, I get that. I think you're ending and beginning a lot of things at the moment. I think there's like at thresholds things can feel chaotic, and what you may assume you're bringing from one chapter to the next isn't always the case, and sometimes that storm is clearing out debris we don't even know is debris. And it, after a storm though, right, you have that clear energy, you have fresh air. So whatever feels tumultuous right now, whatever feels chaotic right now, whatever feels charged right now, trust that it's clearing the air and it's creating the opening for this kind of incubation to birth into something real. So just trust that storm, trust it is a sign of fresh energy about to come and conditions for birthing something coming up. Okay, let's take the top one here, and then praying mantis. Engage in prayer and surrender. Yeah, surrender for sure. Just trusting, believing. Things are very hard at the moment with both of these cards that came out to like see into the future and know what the future holds. And there's a lot of trust being asked of you, but you sense it. You sense the good stuff under the surface. You sense new beginnings coming in and old chapters ending. They're not exactly going to happen at the same time. I think a new chapter's coming first, and then an old chapter in several months you'll have to, and that's part of the storm actually. It's like a new chapter births and an old chapter's not quite ready to go. There's like 6 months before it can really close. And so you're kind of like holding two things at once, this new thing about to come in and then coming in, and then this old thing that's you're trying to let go of, right? With the devil in reverse, you're trying to detach from, you're trying to let go of, and it's like these overlapping stories. So it's very stormy. And there are just like a lot of things that are intangible, that are hard to see, that you have to have a lot of trust in. So trust, use that feminine side to trust in the unseen, the mystery, the intuition, your imagination, just, the uncertainties, like really amazing things are on the way. Believe it. So there you go. All right, that's where I'm going to leave you guys. I hope this reading was insightful. I hope it keyed you into things that, like with a little more consciousness that you were sensing, or that were just undercurrents, and making them like more like, okay, yeah, I get that. I already on some level knew this stuff, but I can take it to a next level of trust here, and surrender, and just, leaning into all these unknowns. So anyway, if this did hit for you, if it resonated, I always appreciate all the things, like, share, subscribe. Comments are always super helpful in helping to get this channel on algorithms. But overall, thank you for being here. I love reading, so thank you for supporting and being here, and I hope to see you in future readings. Hello, Pile 3. Welcome to your reading. Definitely go watch the intro if you haven't. It will help this reading make a little bit more sense. I will give like a very brief intro to what it is here, but definitely recommend to watch the intro. So looking at feminine archetypes in an expansive, broadening way, how there's one that, looking at what feminine energy is already sort of in that expansive mode, what is synthesizing and integrating and really starting to find some manifestation and succinctness, and just really anchoring into you, that's expanded you. And what, with that one sort of anchoring in, what do you now have room for, like a new seed of a feminine energy kind of flickering to life, finding new kind of awareness and consciousness within you, but that will be held sort of in an incubation period for several months to come. So we are first going to be looking at what's already anchoring in, what have you already been trying to tap into, trying to broaden in you, and what is now, like, what I've been saying is in like the next day to 2 weeks, really feeling that sense of that feminine archetype, like solidified and like really anchored in you, integrated. So that is that card that you picked for your pile. For you is Hummingbird. So let's take a look from the guidebook of, what this means. This deck is totally new to me, so these are my first cards through this reading that I've seen of it. Okay, so I have to find the page first. Hummingbird 37. And it's joy. Joy is the nectar of life. Hummingbird thrives on this intoxicating elixir. Dancing effortlessly from flower to flower in search of beauty and bliss, she revels in the jewel-like garden of experience. Her delight is contagious, is yours. If you savor sweetness and spread joy, then pollinate the world with hummingbird medicine. If joy has been elusive, let hummingbird alight, charming you back into love with life. I'm just skipping around a little. Hummingbird teaches you to notice life's simple pleasures and befriend contentment. In this way, you find happiness rather than expecting happiness to find you. There are people who can be miserable on a beach in Hawaii and those who smile from the trenches of the stomach flu. Joy is not wedded to circumstance, but it is influenced by your perspective. Learn to recognize that essentially you are the joy you seek in the world. Only then may your honeyed heart of joy expand, dropping golden blessings everywhere you land. Oh, I totally feel like this could be my pile, but I don't always give myself a pile in these readings because I don't want to bias. But I get what this one's coming from. It is about perspective. There is this thing of like, I feel like a lot of times we're always looking to the future, always striving and reaching for things, and it can be really difficult in not always, but there's, moments of the year, moments, chapters of our life even, where it can be hard to remember to just like be in the moment and open our senses and perceptions to the magic that is just all around us always, even when we are sick or in a difficult situation or other things in our life aren't going wrong. You can always choose to just like open up to, go out into nature and notice something. And it's about choosing, choosing, because you could be the wealthiest person in the world, like Scrooge McDuck in the cartoons, who doesn't ever seem like they're actually enjoying life. Like it's always what's next, or how do I get more, or how do I amass more, or be more, or do more. It's like, it's a way of being. It's a way of, and the feminine is about being. The masculine is doing, feminine is being. And so there's maybe something in general about that very general feminine energy you've been discovering over the last 6 months of like choosing a different perspective, choosing to just, yes, there are times of the day and the week and the month and the year that are a little bit more focused on efforting and trying and learning and doing the things. But like, what is it in your life that has made you kind of switch perspectives to be a little bit more, to settle into a moment and notice something beautiful, nature, the interesting shape of leaves, the beautiful sparkle and texture of stones, the grain of wood. There's so much you could pay attention to that's beautiful and pleasurable. And that is a feminine thing. It is, the yin side of everybody. Everyone has a yin side, a feminine side, is about pleasure and beauty. And it's a choice to attend to that. Sure, maybe money and success make it easier to do those things, but you still have to choose it, right? You could still be that Scrooge character that has everything you could possibly need to just back off and enjoy life, but you don't know how to choose that. You don't know how to just be, And so there's something I feel like in the last 6 months where you've been deepening into this and you've been developing that ability to choose following beauty, following pleasure, following desire, and finding that brings a new kind of dance and balance and enhancement to life, and actually starts to draw things to you as well. Like you don't have to go out and chase everything. Sometimes things can just come to you because of the energy you're holding and what you're seeing, the things you can see because you're paying attention, because you're in the moment, because you're connected to pleasure and beauty and noticing where it is. Okay, let's do some tarot cards to see a little bit more about this right now. How is this starting to really solidify an anchor for you? Like really click in, like it's something you've been playing with. It's sort of been in and out, but there's something in the next day to 2 weeks where it's like really just solidifying for you. Let's see what we can know about that, what the cards want to help you see or notice or confirm even. Page of Swords. Yeah, it does feel like a very new way of seeing and thinking. It is a choice, and it's new. You've been making new choices around this, around joy, beauty, pleasure, desire. And it has felt fresh. It has felt like it's eased up your mind and introduced you to a whole new way of being mindful of life. So it hasn't just created like physical beauty around you or a sense of excitement and fun or more emotional stability, but there's something there that is like, hold on one second, that is more mental. That has lightened your mind a little bit, made life feel a little breezier and youthful. And it's, the cards are saying to like lean into that, to help this really anchor in, lean into that kind of fresh, lighter mind. High Priestess, like really trusting your intuition as well with this. I feel like that is what called you to start really developing this and actively using this kind of like hummingbird archetype or quality of feminine. Was some kind of like inner knowing, inner seeing of like, there's a balance that's been off and I just need, it was like an inner call, just an inner knowing came. Like I need to switch some things around. I need to experience life different, and I'm sensing that there's something about it, the choices I make in terms of what I see in a moment. And it's not so much about getting anywhere. It's not so much about achieving anything that gets me that. It's about choices in any given moment. And there was just some kind of like intuitive knowing that just clicked on. It wasn't like you read a book or heard a podcast or got advice from a person that came from within. There was something inside of you that was like, you're doing something wrong. Like you're not enjoying life the way you could because of the energy you're holding. And that came as an inner directive of like, I need to change. And so you followed your intuition in some inner thread you just kept pulling at, and then Six of Swords, and it's taken you to, and you're still like, the Six of Swords is leaving a stormy shore to go through that storm and arrive at a more pleasant shore. So it's leaving a stormy condition to find more peaceful condition, which is literally what's been sort of unraveling here as I've been reading the energies. It's like, but the fact in this card that they're still in the boat, they're still paddling in that kind of turbulence, and then we see the land and we see literally inches in front of them, if not like already crossing the threshold of that calm shore. This is showing that you're like, just so like you're right on that threshold of like having exited some stormier mindsets and finding that calmer mindset due to following this instinct of the choice of how you are, your sense of being versus doing, and how you balance those, and choices you make in terms of following pleasure and beauty and what that is to you. And so where you find it and connect with it. And it's like, it's just something rewiring with that. And I feel like that is totally, it's so funny because I consider myself an incredibly feminine. I run very yin versus yang. but and I know these things, everything that I've been saying are things that I have known and understood. But there was something about this year where I don't know what it was. Like I just saw through some kind of illusion where it was still this thing of like, well, I can't truly have that until I reach this certain, place or achievement, or there still was this kind of masculine program running really deep somewhere that I hadn't quite uncovered like this year, and we all still have our masculine side. I'm not saying that that's completely turned off in me, but I just don't think I realized how active it was, like deep underneath. Yeah, and I do feel like the last year to 6 months, I've just been like, I don't know, I've just seen it. I've seen it and I've made different choices, and it has changed my mindset quite a bit. It's just like another layer of it. I feel like I've been through many layers of this. I probably have more to get through, but I feel like I had a really big layer of that this year, like getting that more deeply. Noticing it more quickly too. I guess maybe that's the difference, is like noticing it more quickly when I start getting in that kind of like to-do list thing and goals thing and productivity thing. Like I'm a Virgo, so I can get very caught up in that, like I need to be productive and I need to, make goals and feel useful, and so like I can get caught up in that doing stuff, that doing element of life. And so I think that's what I'm trying, I'm actually kind of articulating it better to myself as I talk to you guys, is like I'm catching that more quickly, and I'm seeing when I do that more quickly. It's always going to be a mode in me, and that's what I was trying to say. It's like, it's not like that voice is off. I'm a Virgo. That's always part of my program, but I see it more quickly when it's making me unhappy, and I see it more quickly when it gets a little hyper, and I see it more quickly when I'm tired, and shouldn't be attaching to that. And so I don't know if that resonates for you, where maybe you're seeing this completely new, like a very new perspective with it. Maybe like me, it's something you're starting to see more quickly. And so being able to tap into that joy a little bit more often and a little bit more quickly when it's needed, when you're off balance, that kind of thing, whatever it is for you. That was just my lived example this year. Okay, so this is something that is really, and we see what the Six of Swords really does give us a timeline. Like this is now, you're crossing that threshold now of like really anchoring this into a new degree, or to a degree at all in your life, where you're recognizing a sense of being, needing to be connected to following pleasure, beauty, joy, and attending to that just as much as you attend to goals, Okay, so this is solidifying. What is a new spark? What is a new seed anchoring in terms of a flicker? Not anchoring in terms of it's solidified. This is like a new flicker, a new awareness, a new consciousness starting to be like awakening within you. And it's not something you'll be able to embody for many months to come, like 3 to 6 months to come. Probably 3 months. We'll call it 3 months to come. But it's something that's awakening deep inside of you that can be hard to articulate, that like just this longing of like this new feminine quality that wants to expand in you, that's becoming conscious. So let's explore that a little. And this is the card that wants to come out: Shapeshifter and Fluidity. Okay. 141 is the page. I am living today as someone I had not yet become yesterday, and tonight I'll only borrow pieces of who I am today to carry with me tomorrow. Andrea Gibson. A card of transformation and transcendence. Shapeshifter takes you to new places of consciousness. The vehicle and imagination which extends beyond the immediate physical self and into the energy field of your surroundings. Adopting Shapeshifter's fluid state, different dimensions become available, and what's perceived as an obstacle turns out to be an opportunity. While shamans traditionally are able to transit the usual boundaries of the self by sending their soul out via the shamanic journey, you also carry the gift of shapeshifting. Able to alter awareness to match the unbridled purview of the heart. Let's see. Through shape-shifting, whether energetically or literally, you become limitless. The experience of fluidity allows you to exist in a world made up of multiple intelligences and forms. Interesting. Alternatively, when you silence these voices, you rob your sense of their integrity, your mind of its coherence, your soul of its homecoming. Shapeshifter says, do not to be cut off from anything. Be a dazzling thread woven into life's transcendent web. Fluidity, shapeshifter. Excuse me. Something awakening in you, a new flicker that wants to expand in terms of a feminine energy is that fluidity, is that ability to transcend who you think you are, to try on different versions of yourself, to tap into all of the layers and colors and possibilities of you. We all are very dimensional beings. We have lots of sides, we have lots of layers. And I got from the hummingbird, I mean, it's becoming more conscious in me because of this card, but it was in the background running in the stuff I was picking up with hummingbird of like, it is possible for many of you that there tend to be, and this isn't a bad thing, there tend to be scripts you follow, which is a tendency most people have. You could even like read that through astrology. Like, I'm a Virgo, I do a lot of Virgo things. I'm a Sagittarius rising, I do a lot of Sagittarius. There are scripts we do, because we have dominant archetypes within us, and archetypes do have mythic scripts they follow. So it's not saying that like you're a rigid person or you're living someone else's script. I'm talking more about universal scripts and energies. But I get that there's maybe been a way in which you've been doing that, or certain archetypes you've been doing that through for some time. And I feel like with this shapeshifter coming up, there's something in you interested in running that script in a different way, or tapping into the, like a popular thing that's been happening in the literary world for many years now is taking, what's the word for it? Of course, it escapes my mind right when I need to use it. It's like there's a word for it, but it's easy, the way I can explain it, because the word's escaping me, is like non-main characters in stories. Like supporting type characters or minimal characters in stories, and extracting them and retelling the story from that point of view, which really dynamically changes the story and how, like, what's seen about the story, how the story can be perceived from a totally wildly different angle. And I feel that with you, where it's like you want to maybe take some background archetypes that maybe aren't your typical front runners. So say, because like I read a lot of archetypal and mythic energy through astrology. So like me being a Virgo, Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. So the journeys that Mercury goes on tend to run healer and trickster kinds of stories. And so that's a main archetypal energy in me is Mercury for Virgo is a little bit more of the healer, whereas Mercury for Gemini is a little bit more of the trickster. I can see the trickster sometimes because I do like paradox a bit. But that being said, Mercury is an archetype that tends to be a front runner for me, tends to be a main actor on stage for, my points of view and what I'm doing and agendas and all that. And so if this were to be my pile, I might say, like, I really want to explore all these archetypes within me, but that I don't always give the main stage because they aren't really in my story of life, my main characters. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't be fleshed out, and it doesn't mean I shouldn't look at stories from their point of view. And so maybe if I were to read this for me, it might be like, maybe there's some reason why my soul or my fire and spirit want to attach to one of my other archetypes and really elevate them and like follow Venus, for example, and really track Venus's journey and watch my journey, things that unfold in me as I track her journey. But more like not getting into the astrology of it. It was just like a good way to do an example. You may just be sensing different colors in you and be sensing different edges and boundaries in you. And so kind of like letting go of different modes and roles you tend to fall into to see what happens. Not necessarily like intentionally, because that fluidity to me isn't like intentionally stepping into this other archetype or this other interest or this other side or dimension of you. It's just kind of seeing what happens. Like maybe it's this thing as this thing anchors in of being able to follow joy and beauty and femininity more. As you follow those, the archetypes associated with that are sides of you and dimensions of you that are more associated with those kinds of scripts and journeys just start to become more fleshed out characters in you. And just kind of letting go, like following those whims and letting go and seeing those characters step out instead of being like, I intentionally want to step into that dimension of me that loves beauty, instead of having an intention of it, just like noticing beauty, following it, and suddenly all of a sudden you're kind of like following that shape in you. But it was fluid, it wasn't intentional. It just kind of like you just surrendered and flowed into it. And it does make sense with this hummingbird joy. To me, it feels it's interesting. It must be a subconscious why I brought up Venus, but that is a very Venus kind of thing. And so I do wonder if there is an association there of like starting to notice Venus more, the sign she's in. And you don't have to consciously do this. We all connect to these planets in astrology unconscious, like we're not always aware, Even as an astrologer, I'm not always aware that I'm like plugged into a certain planet or functioning out of it. But it's like your Venusian side. I think something's flickering with that. And it's like you're ready to kind of just like ooze into that, flow into that. And it's really going to start developing for you. And things associated with Venus, because I do feel that thread there. I really feel that that's what this shape shifting is like really moving into Venus mode and exploring Venus mode, and that kind of a feminine archetype. There's a few planets that have feminine archetypes, but Venus is that pleasure, joy, beauty. But it's like as you kind of drop into following those things, it turns on your Venus side, and you don't have to be aware that it's a Venus. But it's like that aspect of you just starts to naturally get fleshed out more without thinking about it. But just those choices of being, those choices of noticing beauty, noticing pleasure, noticing joy, are just naturally having your Venus step forward and really fleshing out that side of you, that dimension of you, that archetype in you, and then the kinds of mythic scripts you then follow. And associations with Venus, as this kind of archetype gets more fleshed out for you, some of her associations beyond just joy, pleasure, beauty are self-worth, are having a voice, finding your autonomy, getting paid what you deserve, surrounding your life with valuable material possessions, understanding personal finances better. And so those are other sides that start to develop without so much conscious awareness, but as you just drop into pleasure and beauty, there's something that develops in these fluid ways around that. So I think there's something flickering about this. In several months, something will start to be embodied about that. And in about 6 months, you'll start to really feel something new infuse and starting to try to integrate and be part of your script that is a little, more infused with self-worth, infused with value, infused with bringing material possession and comfort into your life. So that's really cool to see. So allow yourself to feel into that shapeshifter, allow yourself to be more fluid with like what aspect of yourself you're plugging into and playing out of. It may not feel like your comfort zone at first. It may not be, your main archetype. So it's sort of like different and strange, or just like not quite sure how to stand in those shoes, but just be fluid, just allow, right? Just follow the things that you find beautiful, follow the things that give you pleasure, and allow it, and see in the fluidity of that what starts to happen. Okay, so let's get some tarot cards that speak to what you can do to nourish this little flicker, this seed of the shapeshifter within you, to really help it along, help it to birth into a more embodied place in the next few months. Ten of Swords. I don't feel this as something you need to do. I feel this as maybe a confirmation card of like you've hit your head against the wall for the last time in some way. And it probably has to do with like, because a certain side of you hasn't been fleshed out in the way it should be. And you've just like had it. And in that exhaustion, you just melt into fluidity. You just surrender into stepping into this other archetype, kind of a Venusian side that just shows you how to do things a little more, with a little bit more of a receptivity and allure rather than efforting and doing, and it just opens up a completely different relationship to certain energies in your life. But yeah, I think this is confirmation of like you've hit your head against the wall for the last time, you're exhausted, you give up on some way of being that's like not working. And it's because it's Yeah, lacking some dimension in a feminine aspect of you. But shapeshifter's taking you there. Okay, what else do we have? Ace of Cups, yeah. You're going to find new power, new passion, new impulse in allowing yourself to like embody very different shapes and allow and flow into different scripts that you do have that just need to be filled out more. I think you're really going to end up enjoying it and building much deeper, much more fulfilling, much more enriching connections to certain sides of you and ways of being. Two of Swords. Trust your intuition. There may be times where you do get stuck in sort of like decision mode about do I snap out of shape-shifting and go into my normal script? Do I see where this fluid state takes me? What should I do if I come from this angle? And my old, my go-to modes, my very well-developed modes, I might just continue to have old results. If I go into this new, shape shift into that other place that I'm exploring, it's new, it's naive, I don't know that I trust that it's going to get the results I'm seeking. What do I do? Tit for tat, pro and con, making lists, trying to reason it. And the Two of Swords said, get out of that calculation and trust your intuition. What does your intuition say? Flow with your intuition when it comes to whether or not you shapeshift and be fluid or drop into that typical main character that you have access to. Trust your intuition. And I feel like more often than not in the coming year, it's going to be asking you to play out this other shape, flow into this other shape that you haven't spent enough time in and fleshed out enough and really listened to and developed. And it's like I think this is the coming year of like really getting in touch with this aspect of you that beyond just the surface level of, not that it is surface, but beauty, pleasure, desire, harmony. Those are definitely not surface. They can be, but there's something that's going way, way, way deeper with this new awakening and consciousness kind of turning on within, where it's like no longer about a balance, about needing to just balance your life by attending to these, noticing more quickly when you need to back off of life and find more pleasure, seek more pleasure. It's like moving totally away from balance and into like fully committing to and surrendering to this shape within you, this archetype within you that is just so hungry to develop. Which makes sense if you watch this in the next, few months especially, or even in the next year. Venus seeded her new heroine's journey in Aries, which is the hungriest sign of the Zodiac, and it wants the most attention. It demands to, get what it wants when it wants kind of energy. It's impulsive, it's forefront, and so that kind of like even just reading the astrology of the moment sort of makes sense that like Venus is demanding having seeded a new heroine's journey in Aries to be center stage, to like Leo's the center stage, the star, but Aries is another fire sign, and it wants things immediately. It has impulse, it has clarity, it has passion, it wants what it wants when it wants right now, it wants it now. And so that's what it feels like with Venus and this shapeshifter. It's like no, stay in shapeshifter. I need you right now. I need you right. Like, it's always, it needs it right now. So it's like, I feel like once you move the shapeshifter, which to me is reading as Venus, from that seed into a more embodied place, I feel like it's never going to let go of the light. Like, it just needs, it needs to experience things. It needs to do things. It needs to be attended to and attend to its needs. And, like, it's hungry. So I do, that is kind of funny. This is very much so reading into some of the heroine's journey that's actually playing out. So yeah, I think that's interesting. Let your Venus side come up, shapeshift into it, let it be very present over the next year. Just, it might not be the archetype you're used to, or even if you do know astrology and you're sense that you're quite familiar with Venus and you do let her take center stage, or she is like your ruling planet, maybe Venus in Aries is a little different, maybe you have Venus in Cancer or something, and so your sense of Venus is different, and you have to shapeshift your own Venus to be more demanding and more front and center and more immediate and more, getting your way kind of thing. So I don't know. It is interesting because, like, normally if I just picked this card on its own outside of this reading, I would never have attached Venus here, but that's kind of what came out through the story of what's been going on. So yeah, let that Venusian side take over, but in her fierce way, in her demand to be attended to, and get her way. Just, see where it goes, because there's something you're fleshing out, there's something you're discovering, there's new emotional currency and power you're finding, love for yourself that you're finding, love for life that you're finding through it. So just let yourself flow into that and let it, just allow it, right? Okay. Last thing. Oh, I almost quit there, but we do have 2 more cards I want to do. I'm going to draw an archetype and an animal power card, just for some guidance around whatever is going on in your life right now, kind of that bridges to what we've been talking about. So just some, like, right in the moment guidance for you about the expanse of, expanding these feminine archetypes. We've got the mirror. Ooh, I have some thoughts, but let's get your animal first. Oops. And duck. Step into sacred union. But that almost is, like, I'm reading this more than, like, instead of like a union, like a relationship necessarily. The mirror is a relationship. It's a double of something. We see our reflection. This kind of feels like, but there's like another thing in that Venus is associated with the planet Libra, which is a sign that mirrors things and it understands itself through others mirroring to it. And there's a lot of mirroring energy. And so mirrors themselves, seeing reflections, seeing relationships, and relating with others to use responding and mirroring with relationships that are literal are coming up here. And that is a Venus mode. And it's like, lean into what's being reflected to you. That's going to help you to connect to knowing how to shapeshift. It's connecting you to understanding your sense of joy, what brings you joy. That could be even something, sometimes people have just, like being an astrology minded person that I am, any chart I look at, I can see areas where people won't be able to see themselves unless that part of themselves is being mirrored to them. And so there's something coming up here where it's like that for you might be connected to joy, pleasure, beauty. Like, what even are those to me? I have, some senses, but like on that deeper sense, maybe you need mirroring with others, relational interactions to help you see that side, some Venusian aspects of yourself. So lean into relationship, like people who are good at mirroring. And what that looks like is like we can be in dialogue with others and find people that we have good conversations with, but we can also like talk over each other a lot. And we all do it. I do it all the time, because there's a difference in terms of just sort of like bantering and being friendly and having fun and actual mirroring. It's very different than just conversation and connection. Mirroring is like kind of like counseling, where you need to be heard and reflected back to. And so a lot of times in conversation, someone will be talking about something and you're like, oh, I totally relate to it because this and this and this, and then you make it about you, which is fine. That's just totally normal and like connections. You're showing that like you're like-minded, or you can relate to what that person's going through. But real mirroring, to see yourself through another's eyes and not just see that you're connected because you think the same way, but to see yourself through someone else. You have to look for those people that can mirror to you, which is they listen and they repeat back what they heard. And then you're like, and then maybe elude what they think on top of that, but it's like keeping the focus on you. And you need to find some people like that in the next few months that can mirror back to you, not just connect and dialogue. Nothing wrong with that, but like, and it could even be speaking to that. Maybe a counselor could help, someone you actually pay to just do that for you. But maybe you have a good friend or a good family member that like can help you to see something about, even asking them questions, asking them to tell you things that they see about you. Like, when do you see me lit up? What do you think from your perspective, what do you think brings me joy? What do you think I find pleasure in? What do you think my sense of beauty is? Like just get feedback, right? There might be something that's like been hard for you to see without it being mirrored to you. And that means nothing psychologically. Everyone has that in their chart. Everyone has a seventh house. Everybody has a seventh house where we need things to be mirrored to us because it's hard to see otherwise. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. I hope in general, the whole reading, it was a little bit more esoteric than the other two, but I think also very interesting and beautiful. And I feel excited for where you're going, even if you're kind of like, that was abstract. I get this sense that the result in like a year is going to be a lot more self-worth and a lot more understanding of the material world, maybe even on top of that, and more pleasure, joy, and beauty. So anyway, leaving it there. I hope this did illuminate some things, confirm some things even that you've already been feeling. And if it resonated, I always appreciate the things like share, subscribe. Comments are also very helpful. They help the algorithm get this to more people. But in general, just thank you for being here. Love reading, love having you here, and I hope to see you in the next reading. See you guys.